Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Darhas Patina. I work for the Army Corps of Engineers Engineering Research and Development Center, and I have some things I think will be interesting to quite a few people in the community. The way this work started was 2 years ago I came to SciPy, and or 2 or 3 years ago I came to SciPy, and Jim Bednar gave a talk on Datashader, and I was like, "Ooh, I could use that if we added a few things." And this is what happened from that collaboration. I want to make a point. EarthSim is not a framework. It is not a something we expect you to download and install. It is currently a location where we're experimenting with tools and building stuff, and once they work, we're trying to push them into an existing open source library so that it has more chance of staying maintained. And so it's also a place for putting notebooks and examples of how to use all these libraries and tools that we're pushing stuff into for earth science or simulation workflows. Currently, we're working in Jupyter notebooks, but the plan is to be able to use some of these stuff directly in websites without Jupyter in the background, like in dashboards and stuff like that. We have a website, we have a repo. This talk is actually, I just pushed it about 5 minutes ago. You can kind of follow along, but it takes a while to install all the dependencies for EarthSim, so you probably won't actually get to that point by the time I hit next. This is the stack we have. It's basically the PyVis stack, plus we have released a couple of packages, Quest, and, which does data, like gets environmental data, helps you manage it and stuff like that. And then we've been working with a company called Aquaveo. They have a very good constrained Delaunay mesher, which we use, and they have in a commercial product. We're pulling it out into an open source library so we can do triangular meshes and stuff. A lot of the work which we've done has been pushed back into Param, Datashader, Bokeh, GeoViews, HoloViews. I'm very glad I see some PyVis people here, because if you ask me how some of this stuff works, I'm going to say magic. But technical questions, I'm going to point to Jim Bednar over there. This is a collaboration between Erdic and Anaconda. Everyone else on this list except for me actually did most of the work, so I just want to make that clear. I'm just getting to talk about it. I had lots of slides about motivation and why we did this and all that kind of stuff, but I threw them all out yesterday, and the entire talk's going to be a live demo, so we'll see how that goes. Actually, I think I picked the wrong one. Actually, I need to get out of this. Oh, this is the one with the results. One second. Let me get out to the, yes. That was my backup if, oh wait, no. Okay, we'll just run it anyway. Okay, so first we're going to do a bunch of imports. Let me see if I can get this bigger. And I'll just talk a little bit about this. You see we're basically importing a bunch of packages, HoloViews, Datashader, things like that. This stuff here, which is coming from EarthSim, is stuff we're still playing around with, and we don't have a standard pattern of how it should work or where it should be pushed. So this is kind of examples of how to use all those tools for doing what we're doing. If you haven't used HoloViews or GeoViews before, here I've just taken a tile server and a couple of points which are like Houston, Dallas, and Austin, and I'm just plotting them on a bokeh plot, and you can zoom around and stuff like that. That's not very useful. Everyone can already do this. One of the first things we added was what we're calling drawing tools, and now we basically, I've got some empty, you could put points, polygons, and paths here, but I just put empty ones here. I'm connecting them to these new drawing tools, and we have a stream object that lets us access the data from Python after we draw things in the map, and vice versa. So we have a two-way connection between Python and JavaScript. And I'll give an example of this. I'll just run this. Now, actually, I'm going to have to go down again so I can see the tools. Okay, so here, now I have a point tool that, I can put a bunch of, like, Of course, it doesn't work now. There we go. So I can put a bunch of points. I can draw a path. Draw another path. Then I can draw a polygon. And this is something you can get in other JavaScript libraries. This isn't really anything super special, except it's now in Bokeh, so you can do it in Bokeh. The part which is cool now is those things we just drew are available in Python. Or if you want the latitude, longitudes of those points, there are the latitude, longitudes of those points. So where this becomes useful is when you start using those as building blocks. So for example, here, I have a map of Austin. You know, you can zoom around, do the usual stuff. I'm going to use our new bounding box tool to draw a bounding box. Now, here I actually have the bounding box I just drew, and in this cell I'm going to use Quest, our other software, to go download some USGS data, and it's going and downloading the data from the USGS NED elevation server. And now, if this opens up in a second, we've downloaded and merged that data into a single tile, and we should be able to see it, maybe. Give it a second. So here I'm just using raster to open it, and now we have a elevation raster for the bounding box we just drew, and also we added some extra optimizations into HoloViews and GeoViews, so this zooms much faster and, you know, dynamically updates the resolution so you can kind of go in and out. Okay, so then next, we started working on what we're calling annotators. If someone has a better name, we can talk about it. So here, I'm going to draw some, wait, actually, before that, let me just talk. Here you see, in the annotator, I've given some columns. For polygons, I've said material types and mesh type. For the vertex of the polygons, I've said I want a weight. And then for the points, I want, you know, some columns. Those are just some random things I picked. Okay, 1 second. Why is... Okay, my mouse doesn't work anymore. Oh. Okay, so now here I got some points, and I'm going to draw a couple of polygons. And on the second one, I'm going to select the polygon so I can see its vertices. And now underneath, I have these tables, and I can change these values, and you know, or you can start saying, you can start annotating these points, and you can also select them in the map, and it'll select the correct rows in the table back and forth. And so you can start applying data to different polygons or points. Or down here, I don't like this latitude. You know what? I'm going to make it that, and that's going to move the point. So it's a connection. So once you put glyphs on the map, you can start annotating them with data, and then use that later to drive a mesh, grid generation, or set different areas of your mesh as different boundary conditions, whatever. The exact that's what we've been working on. And for an example, here's putting everything together in a mesher. So here I'm going to draw okay, my double click doesn't want to work now. Oh, there we go. So I'm going to draw a polygon of the Texas coast. It's a really bad one. this is not really what the Texas coast looks like. Kristen can give you a better one from her earlier talk. But anyway, I'm going to just put a point here, there, and a point here. And now I'm going to say, actually, initially I'll just mesh it. And that didn't work. Okay, let me try running this again. 1 second. Let me draw a polygon. Okay, just go there. Okay, now let's just try meshing. And you got a uniform mesh. But now let me stick a dot here and a dot here, go down to my annotator, and I'm going to say one of them is 5,000, actually. What did I set these as? And the other one is 50,000. Hopefully, update mesh. Okay, if you can see, this one actually made it denser. That one, let me see. I
think 2,000 is a good number.
2,000 is a good number. Well, no, I changed the I mean, it's a different scale from Vicksburg, so. So anyway, if I go to my other one, I can actually show you. Yeah, that's what I was hoping to show you. You know, you can see the mesh changed based on the points. But anyway, okay, this next one is what I originally talked to Jim about 2 years ago, and when this started working, I was almost like, okay, we don't really need to do the rest of the project. This was kind of enough. I wanted triangular mesh support in Datashader so we could do large unstructured meshes in the browser. And right now I'm going to load a 5 million node mesh of Columbia into the browser and dynamically do stuff with it. And we still have some optimization. Reading the data in takes a couple of minutes, well, not a couple of minutes, a couple of seconds. But once it's in, everything's responsive. So it's going to take a couple of seconds to load. So all I'm doing is reading the data. 3DM is a ASCII data format we use. And we're just making this tri-mesh object with HoloViews. And then we're saying data shade the tri-mesh object. And you can also do, right now I'm going to show you the bathymetry, but you can also do the edges if you want to actually see the triangles. I'm going to go to a low resolution for a second so you can see the image. Okay, so the actual mesh is down here. And this mesh is 5 million nodes, and as you zoom in, it's going to update the resolution. Takes a second, and so you know you can go to whatever. The largest unstructured mesh I've loaded is 20 million nodes. I don't have that on my laptop. That ran on my 20 million nodes ran on my laptop easily without any problem. If you have Dask behind it, potentially you could do whatever size you want. I'm not going to run. I'm going to just show you this. I'm not going to demo it. If you draw, in this case, if you draw lines over the mesh, it automatically pulls up whatever you want to extract, bathymetry, or where you can start linking things and start building more complicated dashboards where you're drawing things on one thing and updating something else. The last one I will go through is what we call, this is the grab cut algorithm is an algorithm from computer vision. OpenCV has a implementation of it which you can install easily, and it's a way to segment images based on foreground and background. If you give it information on what the foreground is and background is, it'll segment it. And for example, an example is here we have a satellite image of an estuary, and I am going to tell it which parts are the ocean or the water just by drawing some background. And then I'm going to say this is land. I'm going to say this is land as well. And then I'm just going to say, find the contours. And it should chug for a few seconds. And there you have the coastline. Wait, actually, that did not work so well, so let's actually do this. Let's say this is also ocean, and this is land. And let's update again. I reduced the resolution of the image just so it would run faster, so that might be one of the reasons why we didn't get this part of the coastline. And it'll take a few seconds. Okay, maybe we'll come back to that and see if it finishes running. In my other one, which I ran a few minutes ago, yeah, I got the same thing. Okay. When I did this earlier today, I got a really nice coastline. Oh, there you go. And you can also say filter contours, and it'll take out the small polygons. So this is crude, but you can see how you could make this into a little more post-processing. You could pull out a coastline or a lake really easily. Future work. In building these examples for my talk, I realized the documentation needs a lot of work. So we will hopefully try and make that better. This is an actively developing project. Some of the things like how the annotators work, how the tables should connect, we're changing our minds about how that should work almost daily because someone uses it and says, you know what, it needs to be a double click, not a single click, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of usability fixes going on. We welcome anyone to try it out and tell us, you know, it's really unintuitive that this key is the key that deletes point, you know, things like that. We have a lot of stuff like that to mess with. We're also working on, once you have something working in a notebook, how do you something like what Jupyter dashboards used to do, where you could take your cells and rearrange them and just have it on a website. The stuff we're building will work without a Jupyter notebook behind it. So we want to kind of prototype in Jupyter notebooks and then move it to a dashboard or something in a website, or put different plots together embedded in different parts of our websites. So we're working on that. We're adding more features to Datashader, converting its output into WMTS tiles, so you could have it standalone, triangular meshes, speed optimizations, adding R tree, quad tree, spatial segmenting, those kind of things. We're also playing around with a prototype of something, if anyone's used ArcGIS Model Builder, where you kind of connect things together and build a workflow, we're playing around with that. We don't know if it'll be useful or not. And then other things that are annoying and we just can't do, like it's currently impossible to draw polygons with holes in it, and we want to draw polygons with holes in them. So a lot of stuff like that. That's the website and the repo. We welcome participation. The hope is the repo is more a list of if you use our tools to solve a problem, or you put them together in a way that has some kind of dashboard, we'd like to put it on the repo so someone else could look at that code, copy, paste it, do something else with it. So that's the hope. And I actually got through everything. Okay. That's surprising. I thought I'd have more problems. So this is the website. We currently have we have a user guide with these are all notebooks which go through how to use the tools for different things. You know, we can load in shapefiles and stuff like that. We've also got, let me show you one other thing. Too many windows. Okay, let's see. So one of the things I did not put in my talk because I didn't think I'd get to it is the ability to kind of do animations, or there's a thing where you link an animation and the profile tools, so you can draw profiles and then animate it and see how the salinity or bathymetry changes, or do cross sections. So you can start building all these tools. We have a small set of examples, and the grab cut I showed is here as a notebook. we're hoping to improve the documentation, and internally at ERDIC, we have several workflows looking at, we have existing meshes where we're running hydro simulations. We want to draw a track of a hurricane and say this is our pressure field, this is our whatever, and then run our models on HPC and visualize it. So those notebooks are so fragile right now that they're not published anywhere, but eventually we'd like to put more of those notebooks as examples. And I think that's about it. I'll take questions.
Totally a live demo. That was living on the edge. I'm impressed.
Well, one of the downloading raster data, like 5 minutes before the demo stopped working because the USGS website started messing up. I was like,
fragile.
Yes.
Any questions? Yes.
Hi, thanks. So this looks really cool. I have a couple questions.
Yes.
And we maybe talked about some of this before, but does this work with quads yet, or like non-triangular?
Yeah, well, yes, if you look at, is it in the HoloViews or GeoViews, the tri-mesh and quad mesh, which? I think, so HoloViews, so when we implemented triangles, we got quads for free, because, okay, to answer your question, we can do quads. What I'm not sure is, can we do curvilinear grids without converting it to individual quads?
Quads right now are represented as 2 triangles.
So that
Not as efficient as it could be, but
it works. If you wanted to directly represent a curvilinear grid, we'd have to put, I mean, I don't think that would be difficult to add. It's just that ERDIC doesn't use any curvilinear models, so we didn't
Okay,
do
and
it.
one other thing. So you're talking about I think you're using Datashader to look at the resolution of your mesh, since it's so dynamic, changes size. What, from one part to another. What about looking at any of the model output? Is that a future thing, or can you do that now?
No, you can do that right now.
So how would you imagine, so you have your model,
So you
you're
got
looking at
two
salinity or whatever.
For smaller mesh sizes, you can use GeoViews and HoloViews directly, and you can have the mesh directly. You have everything you want. For larger meshes, we're using Datashader, and you can decide how you want to aggregate. The whole point of Datashader is if you have one pixel, that pixel might have 1,000 triangles or quads underneath it. You can decide if you want to do the mean of those 1,000 or the max, or you can decide how you want to aggregate those 1,000 triangles into one pixel. And as you zoom in, it will re-aggregate at whatever zoom level you're in. So as you zoom in, you'll get back to, we have one example of doing it with data, but since the PyVis team didn't know how to read our data formats, they just perturbed the bathymetry as a quick kind of example. But yeah.
Also, there's an example in that analyzing meshes.
Is there? Okay, let's see.
So that's results right there.
Yeah, so this is results with an animation, and you draw these, and it's giving you the profiles. So this is an animation of the profile, animation of the field. So yeah.
Like errors. Results of the error. The error results.
can you play it?
Oh, does it work? Okay. Doesn't seem to doing anything. This is the website. This is not my computer. I could launch it.
We could just as easily have plotted depths or.
Yeah.
Someone else's problem.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Let me see.
So I'm glad that you pushed all of this stuff into other libraries that already existed. I wasn't totally clear on what libraries everything got pushed into. Like the polygons, it looked like maybe that was GeoViews, the annotators. Where does
So the
this come?
annotators are not pushed anywhere yet because we still don't have a robust idea of how much of it is common or how much of it is custom to each type of annotator. So anything which needs to be inside so Bokeh is the basic plotting library, so the ability to draw stuff and everything is inside Bokeh. HoloViews is the basic plotting library on top of Bokeh, and you can also use Matplotlib and other backends that gives you a lot of this fancy stuff where I just add the tiles to my plot and it overlays both of them. GeoViews is just HoloViews, which understands coordinate systems. So most of the stuff I think is probably Bokeh and HoloViews, and then making sure GeoViews still works with all of that. And there's another project called Param, which lets you automatically have widgets and parameterize objects, and that helps you build the dashboards. And for example, if we found that Xarray needed some, I mean, one of the things we wanted was the ability to read rasters in Xarray, but they already did that, so we didn't have to do that. So
Is that in there properly? Because I checked the tracker.
no, it's in the released version, but next to, in the doc strings, it says experimental.
Okay.
So you can use it, but it says experimental. But so we don't have anything against pushing things to other libraries if that functionality belongs in those libraries. Yeah.
So I just wanted to say this is really fantastic. All the integration with HoloViews and Bokeh and all the interactivity is really, really cool. I just wanted to say you had at the end of your talk, you were saying for future work you want to add these features to the tri-mesh that you have in HoloViews. I wanted to suggest there's another library. It's also called tri-mesh, but it's not part of HoloViews, that you might want to look at that has all of the operations on triangular meshes, like geometric operations. Very nice Python interface to several lower-level libraries.
I'm surprised I haven't seen it.
It's really, I just, like I had a student that was working with triangular meshes, and we found that it was really, really useful, and it did lots of cool stuff. So it has all those like tree search stuff that we're looking for already.
Yeah, so that'll be, yeah. If we can not write our own code, we prefer that.
That's why we come to SciPy. What are we? Questions? This room's a bit three-dimensional.
What's the overlap between EarthSim and Pangeo? They seem to be complementary projects using the same stack.
I would say, because I was in the Pangeo BOF yesterday, I would say this stuff would kind of work. So Pangeo's got the HPC stuff and the, all the DAS clusters and all that stuff. And one of their front-end interfaces would be Jupyter Notebook. So this would give you better interaction on your data from a Jupyter Notebook. And Pangeo is a loose collection of tools. So this, EarthSim really isn't a tool. It's more like best practices on how to use the existing tools and a place to experiment with before we work out where to put a tool. And James has a suggestion.
My perspective on that is that they have different backgrounds, so different people got different funding to create.
Yes.
We are in close contact, and we can't claim that one is the other.
Yeah.
So we are coordinating, and we are supporting each other, and we hope that there will be a future where everyone is really working together with the same tools, or choosing the tools that are appropriate, and so that one project isn't tied to one tool, and one project isn't tied to another tool. Each project is choosing the right tools for the right job.
Well, and with this, there's like a whole list of tools. You could, if you only want to use one of them, that's fine. If you only want to use the drawing tools, just use them. You don't. It's not a. You have to use everything I showed. So.
It's a cloud of tools.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that last point. We have a Pangeo instance running on Amazon where we've installed these tools, and it's awesome because you have a 9 million node grid. You can just crunch like the maximum wave height, over some period of time, and then display that thing, with Guidaris' tools here. It's awesome.
And what was your question? Yeah.
We accept questions and encouragements. So.
Yes.
Okay, we've got time for one more quick question. Does anyone want to have the last word before lunch? But everyone's always too scared to ask the last question before lunch. So I think with that, we'll thank the speaker again and thank all the speakers in the session. Thank you.
Thank you.